same day, 17th Prairial, the council voted an address to the French people. That direct communication between the nation and its representatives indicated sufficiently that they were diverging from the ordinary paths and preparing opinion for the measures upon which they had already determined. 3 days afterwards, the two councils celebrated a funeral festival in honor of our plenipotentiaries who were cowardly assassinated at Rastatt. The Council of 500 offered a touching peculiarity. Jean de Brie, the only one of the three victims who had escaped from death, occupied the armchair. His discourse drew tears from every eye. The Directory, notwithstanding its inquietude, was ignorant of the plan adopted by its adversaries. It thought it beheld its loss certain if they took from it the dictatorship of the periodical papers. It collected all that remained to it of courage to defend itself upon that difficult ground. The few friends who had not abandoned them united with them. Ballou published a very ingenious pamphlet to attenuate our accusations. At length, both sides sustained during several sittings for and against the liberty of the press an obstinate struggle which began in the first days of the month and which afterwards we saw renewed 20 times in our representative assemblies. Among the orators, Cruzet-Latouche for the censure and Chenier against it pronounced some eloquent harangues, but Lecointe Poivreau was the most remarkable, and his words had shaken more than one opinion. Lecointe Poivreau had renewed the reasoning that the friend of Mirabeau, our colleague at Cavity, had already demonstrated to our tribune. I make, said he, upon the sitting of the 9th of Prairial, a great difference between the liberty of the press and the independence of the newspapers. Let us, I beg of you, perfectly comprehend that idea. It is essential for the development into which I am about to enter. Let us look behind us. We shall see the liberty of the press profaned by men who took possession of it to dishonor it by the most licentious excesses, by confounding the independence of the newspapers with the right of expressing their thoughts. Observe what has passed, and you will see that a tolerated license has constantly been the presage of some great movement in the state. All the factions have signalized by the audacity of the press those excesses which they intended to commit. Often have conspirators thus announced beforehand their projects under the legislative, under the convention. A man whose name cannot be pronounced without blushing demanded not the liberty of the press but the independence of the newspapers, and who in his writings committed the most violent excesses. It was in vain that by decree he was declared insane, in vain that he appeared before the tribunal. The voice of calumny was the strongest. The firmest Republicans were the victims, and the friends of Marat himself finished by dreading the envenomed shafts of his pen. I must recall to your minds what the liberty of the newspapers has done since. Reestablished in its rights, it began by caressing the convention which had given it life, and finished by provoking its destruction. It was that which armed the factions of Vendémiaire. It was the most terrible arm of the reactors. It brought the horrors of the revolutionary government, and afterwards the horrors of the reaction. But so many excesses brought at last their own remedy. The 18th of Fructidor came and shone upon France. The papers were subdued, and then the calm was established. The passions are calmed. We have had no more struggles, no more agitations. Some voices called out, no more liberty. And Lecointe Poivreau replied with warmth, Representatives, you desire liberty, but our enemies desire latitude. Have they not already announced that if in this discussion will be the signal of trouble and disorder? I may perhaps deceive myself, but the machinations of the journalists who think to take you unawares may prove fatal, except you baffle them. When we suffer reverses, when all the public enemies dispute with us, ought we to place a powerful arm in their hands? If you revoke the law of the 19th Fructidor, at the same moment the 44 trumpets of royalism that were broken at that period will again resound their fatal concerts. You will have a quantity of newspapers sold to royalism, others to the exaggerated party, whose hopes we do not certainly desire to excite. Strangers will have theirs, and will breathe among us discords, suspicion, and party spirit. You talk of dilapidators, but those dilapidators have got gold. And can you doubt that with gold they will not find journalists disposed to walk in the path they choose to trace? A greater evil awaits us if the independence of the newspapers is reestablished. We shall behold everywhere an erroneous opinion formed, which they will tell us is the opinion of the majority. Thus the Jacobins, the mother societies, the adopted societies will set themselves up as the organs of public opinion. It is not public opinion that will inform you of the independence of the newspapers. You will only see traced the opinion of parties.